Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church Online. Even though the pandemic has kept us apart for such a very long time, we are excited to have each and every one of you with us for today's service, our second Zoom service. How excited are we? Let these furry friends demonstrate our excitement in a brief video clip.
I sit here alone by the river with thoughts of once I never knew your name. And it feels like home. It feels like home. It feels like home. It feels like home. Well, time is so life moves out. We hold on without a doubt. In a special way that no one understands. No one but you. And happiness is knowing you.
Our call to worship today was written by the Reverend Elizabeth Lerner McClay. As drops of rain that find each other and build to become a track, a rivulet, a stream, a river, a sea, so we are drawn together. So we are fortunate to find one another. So we are bound together on this shared passage toward an unknown ocean and all the eternity we will ever know. Welcome to worship with Community Unitarian Universalist Church. Thanks to Gregory Pelly for our chalice lighting today. And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with joy and hope, filled with compassion and love, filled with courage and curiosity. Here may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world.
Unitarian Universalism is a religion characterized by a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. UUs assert no creed, but instead are unified by their search for spiritual growth, whatever that might be. The thread that binds us is our shared covenant. Please join me in saying it together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help one another.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield, down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield, down by the riverside, and study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. 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 Gonna share love around the
At this time, I will share a pastoral prayer, after which we will have music and a time to share our joys and sorrows in the chat function of the Zoom meeting, even though this is recorded. And so please center yourself in a spirit of meditation or prayer for these words. Spirit of love who breathed over the waters, see us safe through this voyage. The waters are troubled, my siblings, and our blue boat home seems more fragile than ever on these rough seas. And the spirit of love responds, hold fast and calm your beating heart. Reach for the presence of your beloveds, present in part or in full, and know that they too ride the waves with you. And I say, then hear my prayer, beloved community and spirit of life and love. May we elect leaders who have decency, compassion, and mercy. May those who lead us value our lives, especially the lives of our Black and brown neighbors and friends, as they and we seek to right 400 years of systematic injustice. May we, as participants in this fragile thing called democracy, give the people's power to those who will use it wisely. We have seen what happens when this isn't the case, and we hope against hope for something better soon. May those in the way of fire, flood, wind, and terror be sheltered and kept safe. May we mourn the forests and the fields and the creatures who flee the flames. And may we hold in hope the homes and humans whose fates are yet unknown. May we send healing and comfort to those suffering from the illness of COVID-19 and the other illnesses and ailments that trouble our world. Hold them in your hands as we reach out our hands to comfort them. May our children, all our children, and all children are ours, be freed from bondage and fear, reunited with their families, given freely the love and care to grow and flourish wherever they may be. And especially today, may the workers and laborers of this nation be granted the respect and dignity they have earned again and again. The least well-paid of our people toil at the most vital labor and receive in turn the pocket change of corrupt corporations and morally bankrupt billionaires. May the workers of America and the world always remember their skill, their worth, and most especially their power. And may we who are lucky enough to live and work in comfort and privilege stand alongside those who are exploited at the picket lines and in our purchasing and in our bodies and in our hearts. For hearing these prayers and the many others which we offer up, I thank you. So may it be. Amen.
For many years, a UU tradition has been the water communion and in-gathering, typically held in late summer or early fall. Members are asked to bring a small amount of water from a place that is special to them, or a bit of water that is symbolic of a special place. One by one, members pour the water into one large container. Yesterday, we held a drive-up ceremony to honor this tradition. The combined water is a reflection of our shared faith, our shared mission, coming together from many different sources.
At least once a year, at this time of year, I'm reminded of the 1,000 possibilities for metaphor and allegory that lie in the idea of water. We talk about it as a nourisher of life, raging element, rushing river. We say throw the baby out with the bathwater. We talk about how even a drop in the bucket is better than no drop at all, and the many ways in which water comes together, joins and moves in a trickle, a stream, a river, strengthening as the drops merge, becoming something greater than the sum of its parts. Sometimes we look into water and we see ourselves reflected within the mirror of the sky. There's something fascinating about reflections. They draw us in. Our eyes are drawn to the perfect image of ourselves or the wavery, blurry edges, the ripples that smooth and disperse our reflections and change how we look. We're shown different ways of being when we look into different mirrors. We see ourselves reflected in the faces of those around us, or we try to. Sometimes we look around and we don't see ourselves at all, and that can hurt. A young man I know said the hardest thing about growing up gay was the immense silence of his family and community around being gay. It's not that people were necessarily mean about gayness. It's that he could look and look into the faces at the dinner table, in the pews of the church where his father preached, the people in his classrooms, the books and television and movies he consumed, and never see himself there at all. He was missing, and it felt as if a part of him had been erased. Sometimes, it feels like a lot of times right now, we look into faces with which we vehemently disagree, faces we dislike or perhaps even hate, and we reel back with a shock because sometimes we see ourselves there. The first time I had to confront my own white privilege, the first time I looked at my own unspoken judgments and assumptions and the microaggressions that I committed and probably still commit, it deeply affected me when I saw that reflection of myself. Sometimes we look into the mirror of family and culture and we see our own best selves there, magnified and made beautiful. Our courage and our curiosity suddenly clear and close. We gaze into the face of one another and we see an image that is foreign but attainable, acceptable, within our reach. If they can do it, these wonderful, beautiful people, we think maybe I can too. Unitarian theologian Theodore Parker told us that the power of Jesus' example is not in his divinity, but in his humanity. If Jesus was a human like us, Parker says, his rebellion and his struggle have power. We can see ourselves working to heal the wounded, challenge injustice, break bread in peace with those who are like us and those who are other. We see the same possibility reflected back at us in the faces of Rosa Parks, Mahatma Gandhi, Harvey Milk, Malala Yousafzai, and the other prophetic people whose images and voices we hear, examine, and encounter in our search to create a more just and loving world. We are water. We're stronger together than alone, and we have the power to nourish or to overwhelm. And we are also the image in the water, the reflection of what might be. We see our sorrow and our joy, our beauty and our ugliness reflected back at us in every face in the mirror, every ripple in the water. It's up to us to decide what to do with those images, how to respond to them, and how to shape the reflections that others will see when they look back at us. And so, like water, may we go into all places, bringing relief, nourishment, and care. And like water, may we reflect the beauty which is all around us. Amen.
Wade in the water, wade
Just as our water ceremony is a reflection of our shared faith, the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for our church and our community than they could have done alone. At this time, I invite you to freely give to Community UU Church, and you can easily do so by going to our website, communityuuchurch.org, and click the Donate Now button. Thank you very, very much.
It's our custom as Unitarian Universalists to offer water as a symbol of our connection, one to the other. As you may know, yesterday morning I stood in the parking lot of the church and hosted a drive-through water communion. People brought water from home, water they'd saved from trips, water from the tap and from the rain barrel and from small magical bottles. Some people used the water I had there, adding it to the mingled waters of our beloved community, naming its significance in their own lives. I asked, every year the symbolism of the water shifts for me as new experiences, sorrows, and joys accumulate in my life. This year there are two images in dichotomy that come to me again and again. The troubled waters, us upon them in our frail blue boat on the sea, and thirst, the absence of water and the stark, severe landscape of the desert. And so I add our first water in the name of thirst, the arid landscape of isolation and sorrow we may visit at times in our lives. For some of us, this strange and frightening new world in which we live has been dry and barren. And so may the water I pour honor our fear, our anger, our sorrow, and our distress. The harsh terrain of our desert times deserves to be acknowledged and honored, if only for the fact that we have survived our badlands for another day. Now I will add our second water, this time in the name of all the waters of the earth, calm and careering, secret trickling rivulets in the dark, cool shelter of rock and earth, and skydiving waterfalls that throw themselves joyously from verdant cliffs. We are children of the water, nurtured in the tides of the womb, dependent on the water's presence and mercy, and finally free to join the water in whatever form remains to us in the end. And so although we are tossed and turned by storms, many, if not most, of our own making, we will and we can hold fast to one another, and we will ride out the rage to come once more into calm harbors. No ocean is entirely safe, and no desert is very safe at all. These aren't safe times we live in, although it must be admitted that few of us are in immediate peril, and thank goodness for that. And so, I mix these, our many waters, from near and far, and I bless them with these words. May the waters here remind us that water connects us all, in our veins like rivers through our bodies, and in the rivers that bring everything, even us, to the sea, eventually. May the waters here remind us of our own thirst, too. The dry desert times in our lives, the delirious rush of that first healing draft, and the thirst we cannot quench until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Take these waters for the nourishment of your lives. We've come now to the end of our service, and so I hope that you will join me in extinguishing our chalice with the traditional words that we speak each week, which will appear on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.